Rain is going to continue to be hard to come by for a lot of Florida, and the cooler air also going to be extremely limited going forward through most of November. What's going on, guys? Certified meteorologist Jonathan Kegas with you. And first and foremost, we're going to talk about why our rain chances have been so limited and why they will continue to be over the next 7 to 10 days. Then we're going to break down a cold front. I just mentioned that the cool air is going to be hard to come by. We are going to get a short-lived, brief, not as extreme cool down as what we've seen so far this season. Coming up in the next couple of days, we're going to break that down, but then I'll show you the blowtorch coming our way as we get ready to roll through Thanksgiving. So we're going to take a long-range look. And then on the tropical front, we may not be done just yet as a whole in the Atlantic Basin. There's some shenanigans in the Caribbean. We've been talking about this. If you're with us on Tropics Watch Live, by the way, that happens every Monday at 11 o'clock on this channel. Tune in, subscribe for that. We're going to break down an increasing signal for that to happen in the models and ensembles. Before we get into all this stuff, if you want to stay updated on all things Florida weather, you have to hit subscribe. If you happen to find this content helpful, I'd love it if you just hit that thumbs up button. So easy, but it really does help us out a lot. All right, so I'm showing you kind of a wide view here to show you that the rain is oh so close. It's hanging out in Texas, though. Our friends to the west, where they have also been in a really bad drought, are going to get a ton of rain through the weekend. Look at us, though. Destin, the Panhandle, where we also have a pretty big drought going on, we're going to get a little bit, but notice most of the Florida peninsula, we are getting hosed because we have a huge chunk of high pressure basically sitting right on top of the state. We have clockwise flow around areas of high pressure, and that is one of the reasons why we have that Pacific and Gulf of Mexico moisture kind of surging through Texas, and then it's kind of getting lifted up and over this area of high pressure. So Florida is basically protected by big-time rains. You see, we do have rain chances with us over the next few days, but we're going to be protected from any kind of drought-busting rain, especially in the Panhandle and Gulf Coast, where we do have that ongoing drought. I'm going to show you the latest drought monitor. That's going to be in Thursday's video. The United States Department of Agriculture releases their drought update every Thursday morning, so we're going to have that in your Thursday Florida forecast. So come back for that. Subscribe if you're interested in how we are faring in the drought department. If you live in those areas, you know it's not good. Water vapor imagery shows the same kind of deal. All of this drier air in brown. Again, rain is very hard to come by. Here is that Pacific moisture that I was talking about that is going to basically ride around that chunk of high pressure. So it's going to give our friends in Texas a lot of rain, through Arkansas, parts of Louisiana. They need it too, but we really need some rain. And unfortunately, we're just not going to get a ton out of that. Now, I keep on saying this. We are expected to turn stormy. If you missed out on the Florida forecast of very, very long range that I broke down what I thought was happening with this winter, click that card up or wait till the end screen at the end of the video. It's going to have that active storm track that I do think will set up, especially by the second half of winter. There's still a long time to go for that to happen, but I do think relief in terms of the rain is coming, and then eventually the cool down as well, the extended cool down. Here's our weak cold front, and I want to show you this because we do have some cooler air. Again, highs on Sunday likely going to be held in the 60s and 70s in North Florida, the mid to upper 70s in Central Florida. This one doesn't have the oomph as the last couple of big cold fronts that came through, so we're really not expecting much change for us in South Florida. And again, we're fast forwarding all the way out to Sunday here. Now, Monday morning, I also wanted to kind of show you the low temperatures because we're not talking about the 30s and low 40s coming back behind this front either. We're talking about the 50s, maybe a few upper 40s kind of sprinkled into the Panhandle area. But for the most part, it's going to stay relatively warm with just kind of refreshing air toward the Florida Panhandle and North Florida. It's still going to be kind of muggy into South Florida because that front really kind of washes out before it makes it here. So really Sunday night, Monday and Tuesday from like Lake Okeechobee points north, that is going to be our brief cool down. Once we get beyond Tuesday, blowtorch. And this is going to go through the next 2 weeks. This is going to take us just before Thanksgiving. This is the Climate Prediction Center outlook here. But we're going to have kind of a huge pattern change. And the reason for this is you see where there's probabilities for below normal temperatures. They could have some big-time snowstorms. If you're a skier and going west, this is going to be really, really good for you and for them out there. But you see the blue there, the probabilities for below normal temperatures. We have a dip in the jet stream developing out west, and then really for the eastern two-thirds of the United States, we have a huge ridge of high pressure building in the upper levels of our atmosphere, and that is going to crank up the blowtorch again for Florida and points north. This is all relative to normal, so we're not talking 80s or whatever up to Minnesota. but it is going to be much, much warmer than they are accustomed to. And for us, that means we could be pushing record temperatures. Unfortunately, if you don't like the heat, we're going to be back into that record territory again, upper 80s to around 90 degrees, I think, as we roll right on through a couple days before Thanksgiving. There are long-range indications that we could have a big, big front right around Thanksgiving. There's still some uncertainty, though, as to if it's going to get pushed back northwest and wait till December or whatever. So that's something that we're going to fine-tune, and we're going to keep you updated right here on this channel if you're a fan of long-range stuff. And I'm a nerd for long-range forecasting, kind of breaking down El Nino and teleconnections and all that fun stuff. Come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button for me. All right, tropical update. There's a whole lot of nothing going on right now in the short term. And the short term is going to be defined as the next 7 days. Again, the Hurricane Center puts out the little blobs, if you will, to kind of highlight where they think development is going to happen over the next 7 days. There's nothing showing up here. Big non-tropical low here, just a few showers out in the main development region. We're done in that part of the world. And then nice and quiet in the Caribbean. But we could have that changing by mid to late November, that second to third week. We kind of broke this down a little bit. We did in Tropics Watch Live. We had a whole breakdown of that on Monday at 11 o'clock in the morning, and that's something that we do every Monday at 11 through hurricane season. Here it is right here, this little circle. If you've been with me on this channel, we talked about vorticity or the low-level spin. We're looking for a consolidated red circle, and that's what the model's picking up here. Now, note the time frame. This is November 14th. I think the GFS is aggressive, and it's early on its development. The one interesting thing of note here, and the reason why we're talking a little bit more about this in this video, is because we do have some extra guidance on board. We have our friend, the European, which I know everybody loves, and we also have the Canadian model on board, which I will show you in a little bit. And when you start to get the hint, and you start to get, the GFS has been extremely consistent with putting a storm in the Caribbean in that time frame. But you saw it right there, that spin. It's broader. The Euro is not as aggressive, but also note the time frame. So it's more indicative of like the 17th through the 20th that we may be able to get a little something going and then kind of lift into that direction. I want to show you a couple of things. This is going to be the GFS ensembles. This is what I was showing you last week on Tropics Watch Live, that the different members, different initial conditions put into the ensemble members to kind of convey the uncertainty, but a lot of the GFS ensembles are on board with the system developing and then lifting north. What about the Euro ensembles? Here we go. We have more things coming on board, and this is, at this stage in the game, this is what you want to watch. We don't want a storm. That's not what I'm saying here, but this is what you want to watch. You want to see if there's run-to-run consistency from the model. You want to, so that's number one. Number two, you want to see other models come on board if you're, to get confidence. Again, I'm not saying this because I want a storm. I do not. I want to shut this season shut down. I don't want to talk about this anymore this season. But these are the things I'm talking about meteorologically and scientifically you look for. Okay, so we have run-to-run consistency. We have multiple models on board. We have ensemble members on board. Here's the Canadian, by the way. There's the closed isobar down here. This is on the 17th into the 18th, and there we go. There's a developing system right down in there that could lift north. But the other thing that you have to look for, you can't just post models blind. You've got to know the reason. There's a reason why the models are saying something, and you have to kind of be atmospheric investigators and find out, okay, the model is showing this. Why in the heck is it showing it? Well, here we go. This is the reason for that. We have an anomalous area of rising motion kind of moving into the Atlantic Basin. The United States is over here. No, this is the entire world view here. So you see this big green blotchy blob, if you will. What that means is we have anomalous upper level divergence. When air diverges up top, it's got to be replaced with convergence at the surface. It's the mass continuity equation. Learned about that in college. It's a big equation. But nonetheless, that's what you have to do. You have to complete that circulation. That's what that means here. At the very least, in the Western Caribbean, we're going to have prolific thunderstorm activity because this anomaly has shown up on multiple different kind of long-range models, and it's been showing it and screaming it for a while. If you remember back in October, we were expecting development in the Caribbean late October, early November. We had a tropical depression. We had that invest that thankfully didn't get going, and now we have this potential thing that the models are starting to hint at because here is our mechanism. So when you kind of rewind and you look at, all right, Now we have run-to-run consistency on, I know it's the GFS, so take it with a grain of salt, but there are two other models, the European and Canadian, which were very reliable for Adalia, and we have a reason that they would be saying something. So it's not a phantom thing. It's not a phantom storm. The GFS often puts phantom storms in the Caribbean and Gulf. That's why you never post those 360-hour runs of the GFS in May or November. But we have a reason for it, and we have other models on board. I probably went way too long about the spiel here, but I wanted to be clear just about things that I'm not hyping this up, that I'm not rooting for anything. We're just going through the kind of stages that we do behind the scenes here in order to be confident that something is going to be going. So I showed you the reason, I showed you the models, and I showed you all that other stuff too. So it's something we're keeping an eye on, all that to say, through the end of November. Hurricane season likely not over just yet. Of course, it officially runs through November. Alrighty, guys. I hope you found that helpful. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It does help us out a lot. And if you want to comment, post in the comments below. I would love that. I'd love some feedback as to if this was terrible or if you liked it and to kind of what you would want to see going forward as we watch the weather in Florida. That's the purpose of what I do here. We look short-term, long-range, and beyond, and, of course, the tropics when we're in season. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.